Meanwhile, the House Rules Committee voted yesterday to advance a bipartisan bill that would codify the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism into Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. The legislation is being led by Republican Congressman Mike Lawler of New York, who joins us now, along with Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz of Florida. He is co-sponsor of the bill. Gentlemen, thank you for being on this morning. Congressman Lawler, I'd like to start with you to tell us more about the bill and what you hope to accomplish with this in a bipartisan effort.
Well, I think, Mika, what we're seeing on college campuses right now is a failure to act and a failure to lead. And part of the problem is the lack of a very clear definition of anti-Semitism. And so what this bill would do is force the Department of Education to adopt the IRA working definition and its contemporary examples for all of its Title VI discrimination enforcement cases. And I think defining it very clearly and forcing these schools to act is critically important in this moment.
And so, Congressman Moskowitz, explain how it would define it and how it could change the game as to what's happening on college campuses. Where's the ambiguity here? Because a lot of us don't see any ambiguity on hatred.
No, thanks, Mika and Joe, and morning, Joe, and thank you for having us and talking about this issue. No, listen, it's going to give, obviously, more teeth to the federal government to enforce their rules and regulations. It's going to give more teeth to universities and colleges across the country. I mean, this is, as the president of UF said in the beginning of that statement, this is not complicated, right? What we're seeing is we're seeing universities complicated by failing to lead and protect their students, failing to enforce their code of conduct book, taking options off the table, giving all the power to the protesters. Listen, I have been to Columbia. I have talked to Jewish students. I have talked to the parents. And while there are peaceful protesters, while we do not want to lose sight, obviously, of the plight of the people in Gaza, it's a real war, and it's terrible what's happening to the people in Gaza. Make no mistake about it. There is a tremendous amount of anti-Semitism on what's going on these college campuses. We have members in this body pouring gasoline on that by saying Jews fall into two buckets, pro-genocide and anti-genocide. I mean, I got a 10-year-old and 7-year-old Jewish children. I don't know if they're pro-genocide or anti-genocide. I guess I'll talk to them about that. And so this is what's going on. I remember when Charlottesville happened. It was universal condemnation, and the people who try to ignore that or explain it away or say it's not everybody, we condemn those people. But here, for some reason, when it's Jews go back to Poland, bomb Tel Aviv, all of a sudden it's peaceful.
Yeah, Congressman Lawler, how do you explain that double standard? I mean, some of this that we're hearing is not even coded. It's not even innuendo. It's just explicit calls for anti-Semitic activity, behavior, and violence. So why are the universities handling these protests unlike they would any other if it were another group of people being targeted?
Well, we know very clearly if this was a protest against black people, if this was a protest against gay people, if this was a protest against immigrants, it would be very clearly condemned, and rightfully so, and it would be stopped immediately. For some reason, under the guise of the conflict between Israel and Palestine, it is okay for these protests to occur, despite the fact that the rhetoric is oozing in anti-Semitism. When you are chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, we know exactly what you're calling for. You're calling for the eradication of the state of Israel. I want the Palestinian people to be free, too, from their oppressors. Their oppressor is Hamas, a terrorist organization that uses innocent Palestinian civilians as human shields. You know, in 1969, Father Hesburgh, the president of Notre Dame, sent a letter to the faculty and the students. And in sum and substance, he said, you have a right to protest, but the moment that protest turns violent, either physically or verbally, you will have 15 minutes to cease and desist. If you do not cease and desist, Within 15 minutes, we will ask for your ID card. Upon presentation of the ID card, you will be suspended. If you don't have an ID card, you'll be arrested. If you still stay, within 5 minutes after that, you will be expelled and arrested. This is what needs to happen. This participation trophy generation needs to be told no. Enough is enough. And these administrators who are allowing this anti-Semitism to occur on their campuses need to be held accountable. And that's why last week, when I met with President Shafiq at Columbia University, I demanded her resignation. She has lost control of her campus and cannot ensure the safety and security of every student, but especially Jewish students who are under attack right now.
You know, it's interesting, Jonathan Lemire, we have sat through some tumultuous times over the last 4 years, 5 years, and it is really interesting, even beyond that, as the congressman said, after Charlottesville, when there were people saying, no, 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 they're good people on both sides, universal condemnation. Here is chants going on and on from the river to the sea, and people talking about genocide and holding up signs that talk about the final solution. I will say we're getting a lot of correspondence from people that are saying, yeah, we understand that's there, but just look through there. The good people on both, just look through there. The good people on both sides. Just don't ignore the genocidal hatred towards Jews and look at these other people and what they're trying to do. It's interesting how they want college administrators and Jewish students to sort through genocidal chants as they go to class and be fine with it because it's part of a bigger cause. And I will say also, as Mika said on January, looked at that, it looked a lot like January the 6th. That was game, set, match for most of the people, for us, and also for people in the center and a lot of people on the left. Now it seems that there are some people that are celebrating this as an act of, civil disobedience instead of just the raw vandalism and criminal activity that it is. And again, even saying that, people go, oh, you don't understand what's going on, and oh, there's a bigger cause. No, no. If there's a bigger cause, then as we said after January the 6th, let's talk about it, let's debate about it, let's do it through democratic means, through peaceful means. Let's move towards a peaceful solution. And suddenly the people that were so offended about January 6th, rightly, and so offended about what Donald Trump said after Charlottesville, rightly, are saying, yeah, but this is complicated. Let's sort through all of this. It's just not complicated. Yeah, we understand because we've been talking about the suffering in Gaza of the civilians. We understand because we've been talking about illegal settlements on the West Bank. We understand why Palestinians would be upset about this and why they would want this issue to be front and center. But there are people that are breaking the law, that are breaking codes on campuses, that are committing crimes. And I don't think administrators should say, yeah, well, let's sort through this, and maybe the crimes aren't so bad. Maybe the ends justify the means. No, they didn't on January the 6th. They don't here.
It speaks, sadly, to how fractured and tribal we are right now, because you're right, January 6th immediately met with condemnation. It's not anymore. A lot of Republicans defend it. The RNC deemed it legitimate political discourse. Donald Trump, of course, stands with what he calls hostages, those who are locked up, and even sings with their choir. And obviously now we have, as you say, this should be black and white. There's a place for peaceful protest. There's not a place for some of the violence and horrible rhetoric that's coming with some of these demonstrations. Congressman Moskowitz, I did want to just give you a chance to respond. There has been some pushback to this proposal from both the right and the left, suggesting that it does curtail on free speech, does curtail on the First Amendment, constitutionally protected speech is what Congressman Nadler called it. Just want to get your response to what they're saying.
Well, look, this is a piece of legislation. You could always find a period or a comma that you're unhappy with and find a reason to vote against it. We've had multiple anti-Semitism resolutions coming to the floor before. We had 75 Democrats vote present at one point against an anti-Semitism resolution. And so, look, there are different factions amongst my colleagues, but let's not lose sight of what is going on in the streets of America right now. And there is a double standard. Jews don't fall into this little box in how we've figured out of who's a minority, who's not a minority, who deserves protection, who doesn't deserve protection, right? And you're seeing it. You're seeing Jewish students surrounded on campus, not being allowed to move, Jewish students not being allowed to go into a building, Jewish students not being allowed to take a test in their classroom, having to do it virtually, Jewish students being singled out because they're Jewish, not because of some Israeli foreign policy. And you have folks in my party, right, who now want to pretend like it's not happening. They want to silence it. Oh, there's a justification for the protest. Let's be clear. Jews are not saying that you can't be critical of the Israeli government without being anti-Semitic. I think you can be critical of a country, of Israel, without being anti-Semitic. The problem is they're not. They're showing us they're not. They're the ones conflating the issue. These students are conflating the issue. Go back to 1948. Go back to Poland. All Zionists should die. One of the leaders of that movement in Colombia. They're literally telling us exactly how they feel, and we don't want to listen. Okay? What's happening in Gaza is a separate issue. What's happening on college campuses is rooted in anti-Semitism.
Can I just add in, Jared and I yesterday went to the Nova exhibition in Lower Manhattan, and you saw the result of this level of hatred that is being taught, that was taught in schools in Gaza, and that is being taught on schools here in America. We saw hundreds of innocent civilians killed simply because they were Jewish and attended a music festival. And what these children on this campuses are doing, they are embracing the rhetoric and the ideology of Hamas, a terrorist organization. This is not a free speech issue. This is embracing hatred. And I don't care whether it was in Charlottesville, whether it is in the halls of the Capitol, whether it's on these college campuses. Threats of violence or violence of any kind is wrong. And it needs to be not only universally condemned, it needs to be prosecuted.
Well, and where are the students, Mika and Joe, who want to give the Palestinians more rights, want to help the people in Gaza? Where are the students that are part of that movement saying the folks chanting "Bomb Tel Aviv" are not with us? The folks saying "Go back to Poland" are not with us. The folks that are saying they want to eliminate the state of Israel are not with us. I haven't seen that student. And so one has to wonder why we haven't seen those students saying, don't mess up our movement. We're not seeing that. We're seeing the embrace of it.
Not only that, we're seeing members of Congress go and embrace these students. Embrace the very ones that are saying death to Zionism, death to people who are Zionists. And with all due respect to my colleague Jerry Nadler, he was a co-sponsor of this bill in the 115th Congress. So I don't know why he's somehow changed his opinion on this now, but the reality is we need to define anti-Semitism and we need to enforce the law, period.
Don't think there's a debate on those two things, or there shouldn't be one at least. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning, Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz and Republican Congressman Mike Lawler. Thank you both very, very much for coming on this morning.
There's something else. Thank you guys so much.